The chandelier's light fractured across the ballroom like a net of crystal fire, catching every jeweled neckline, every polished glass, every predatory smile. The Westmont Grand had never looked sharper, colder. "Hey girl, go serve?" The words didn't land softly. They cracked, shattering the air like glass under pressure. A ripple of laughter followed, quick and sharp, rolling off the marble floor until it felt like the room itself was leaning into the joke. Evelyn Carter didn't flinch. She stood near the champagne tower in a plain ivory dress. No sequins. No diamonds. No badge of power glittering from her ears or wrists. Her phone was lifted to her ear, her gaze locked on the woman who had pointed at her across the room. Behind that woman, a semicircle of men in tuxedos leaned into the moment, their grins wide as if cruelty was a sport. One of them even snapped his fingers, summoning her like a waitress. Evelyn's voice into the phone was low and deliberate. "It's happening. Cancel the $850 million transfer." The laughter dented. Not gone but cracked. They hadn't heard the words. They had only seen the way she said them. Calm. Precise. Certain. Like she wasn't the one cornered, but the one holding the clock. "Which catering company are you with?" A tall man with slicked back hair lifted his champagne flute. "If you're quick, we might even tip." The woman at his side smirked, her pearl necklace catching the chandelier light. "Sweetheart, this is for investors only." The ballroom's music didn't stop, but the air did shift. Eyes turned. A photographer hesitated mid-shot. Near the stage, a young journalist named Claire Jennings slid her phone from her clutch. The lens caught Evelyn through a line of crystal glasses. The red dot blinked alive. Evelyn's lips curved faintly. Just enough to register. Not enough to comfort. She'd seen this before. Entitlement dressed as etiquette. At 27, she had been escorted out of a boardroom she was scheduled to lead because her name wasn't recognized. At 33, she had been mistaken for her own assistant while negotiating an acquisition that would later hit headlines. The tall man called again, louder this time. "Security." A uniformed guard glanced up from the entrance, uncertain. The pearl necklace woman, head of the family hosting the gala, plucked the event pass from Evelyn's wrist. The rip of paper was loud enough to cut through the quartet strings in the corner. "Get her out." Evelyn didn't move. Her phone stayed at her ear. "Priority 1, she repeated softly. Claire, the journalist, tightened her grip on her phone. She didn't know the woman in ivory, but she recognized the look in her eyes. The kind that didn't need to shout to be heard. The kind that in minutes could flip an entire room. The guard approached, slow and cautious. "Ma'am, I'll need to see your credentials." "They're gone," Evelyn said evenly, nodding toward the shredded pass in Pearl Necklace's hand. Claire adjusted her camera, making sure to capture the torn remains being held like a trophy. Pearl Necklace smirked. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Evelyn lowered her phone just enough for her voice to carry. "You already chose hard." Then she raised it again. "Move the capital to Harrington Group. Don't wait for signatures." A ripple of gasps whispered across the marble. Someone at a table leaned in to his wife. "Did she just say Harrington?" The tall man scoffed, his voice brittle. "You think we'll fall for a bluff?" "No bluff," Evelyn replied, her gaze steady. "Just business." Claire stepped forward. For the record, she was invited. "I saw her name on the investor list this afternoon." "You must have read it wrong," the tall man laughed, too sharp. "I didn't," Claire said, lifting her phone higher. "And I'm not the only one who saw it." A catering staffer carrying a tray spoke up quietly, but it landed anyway. "She's telling the truth." The Pearl Necklace matriarch's smirk faltered. For a moment. Just long enough for everyone to notice. "Phase 2 is in motion," Evelyn said into the phone. The guard froze. He didn't know what Phase 2 meant, but he felt certain it wasn't going to favor the people who had summoned him. Pearl Necklace took a step closer, her perfume sharp, her voice louder now so nearby tables could hear. "People like you always try to sneak where you don't belong." The tall man pulled another event pass from his pocket, someone else's, and tore it in half slowly, mockingly. The pieces drifted down like confetti. Gasps broke again. Claire circled for a better angle. Her lens steady, adrenaline burning through her veins. "She's stalling," Pearl Necklace snapped to the guard. "Remove her." The guard hesitated. "On what grounds?" Evelyn asked calmly. "Fraud," the tall man snapped. "She's pretending to be someone she's not, trying to wedge into an $850 million deal." The number echoed in the air. Guests froze mid-conversation. One man murmured to another. "That's the size of the Westcott deal." Evelyn's lips tightened. Not in anger. in precision. Confirm full withdrawal, she said into the phone. Redirect to Harrington. Notify both legal teams. Champagne caught in someone's throat. The tall man laughed again, but the sound cracked halfway. You're no one here. The young catering staffer's voice rose louder now. You don't cancel a deal like that unless you own a big part of it. The pearl necklace matriarch whipped toward him. Stay out of this, boy. Claire cut in sharply. You made it everyone's business when you tore up her pass. Phones were recording openly now. Red dots blinking. Evelyn's voice stayed measured. One last time. Are you certain you want me removed? Absolutely, Pearl Necklace hissed. The guard stepped forward. That's when Evelyn moved, not backward but forward, closing the space between herself and her accusers. You just told the wrong woman she doesn't belong in the room she built, she said. The room vibrated. Phones shifted. The quartet faltered into silence. Proceed to phase 3, she told the phone. Rebecca, her chief of staff, answered without hesitation. Understood. Legal is on the line. Capital transfer in progress. The tall man tried to laugh, but it was hollow. Phase 3? What is this, a play? Not a play, Evelyn said softly. An audit. The words landed heavy. Like a cabinet dropped from height. Claire's voice carried into the silence. If she's bluffing, why do you look nervous? The pearl necklace matriarch snapped back. Because she's humiliating my family at a public gala. No, Evelyn corrected. I'm letting your actions speak louder than I ever could. The guard's shoulders shifted uneasily. He'd seen stunts before, but this wasn't unraveling. This was tightening. Rebecca's voice was back in Evelyn's ear. Corporate flagged the Whitlock's portfolio for breach of good faith. Do you want me to loop in Harrington now? Yes, Evelyn said. Make it loud. The tall man sputtered. Even if you had power, no one cancels a deal mid-gala. That's exactly how my world works, Evelyn said. The matriarch's eyes sharpened. Do you even know who you're speaking to? Yes, Evelyn replied, a small smile cutting through. Do you? Phones tilted, capturing both her face and theirs. Claire whispered under her breath, though the mic caught it. I think we're all about to find out. The guard froze again, teetering between an order and a mistake that could end his career. Evelyn lowered her phone, her voice calm but edged like a verdict. You called me a fraud. You tore my credentials. You tried to remove me from the deal I architected. I've been patient. That patience is done. Rebecca's voice returned, all parties notified. Press statement drafted. You're clear. Evelyn's gaze cut through the air. Good. Let's end this. The room's breath held. Every lens turned. Every string bow hovered. She stepped into the open space. Her voice rang out. You never asked my name. I am Evelyn Carter, CEO of Carter Global. The very architect of the $850 million acquisition you've been bragging about. And I just gave it to your competitor. The words detonated. Phones vibrated with alerts. Guests gasped. A ripple of applause broke, scattered, then swelling. The tall man muttered, You're bluffing. Evelyn tilted her head. Check your phone. He did. His color drained. The matriarch's hand trembled around her clutch. Guests were already reacting to the push notification. Whitlock Global loses $850 million. Deal redirected to Harrington effective immediately. The ballroom wasn't buzzing anymore. It was breaking. And Evelyn Carter was the epicenter. The sound that followed was not applause alone. It was the quick staccato of 100 phones lighting in unison, the soft ring of crystal set down too fast, the nervous laugh of someone who realized too late they were on the wrong side of a moment. The quartet in the corner let their bows fall to their sides. The ballroom had stopped pretending it was a party. The security guard stepped back from Evelyn as if a new border had been drawn on the marble. He looked to the pearl necklace matriarch for a cue and found none. Her jaw was set. Her fingers had gone white around her clutch. Across the room, 3 investors stood, then 2 more, then a dozen. They were not leaving to defend the hosts. They were angling toward the door with the quiet urgency of people who wanted to be seen exiting the wrong narrative before it stuck to their names. Claire kept filming. Her voice for the stream was steady and calm. You are watching a deal move in real time, she said. And you are watching why. Evelyn lifted her phone again. Rebecca pushed the statement. Vendor notice first. Values line front and center. Add the line about access privileges. Already queued, Rebecca said. Ready when you say go. Go. The pearl necklace matriarch finally found her voice. You think a speech and a stunt will ruin us? Evelyn turned her head slightly. I think your actions did that. I only let the room hear them. The tall man at the matriarch's shoulder tried to rally. He was younger than his stance suggested, mid-30s, hair too perfect, confidence cracked at the edges. Name's Callum Whitlock, he said to the nearest cluster of guests, as if a name could reseal the air. If anyone wants the full story, you can come to me. No one moved toward him. The catering staffer who had spoken earlier passed with an empty tray and did not look up. His name tag flashed as he moved. No. Evelyn stepped clear of the champagne tower. She did not hurry. She did not need to. The crowd opened a passage in front of her because instinct told them power travels that way, steady and direct. At the door, the security guard, nameplate Trevor, shifted aside. Ma'am, he said quiet. I apologize. You were doing the job you were told to do, Evelyn replied. Tonight you did a different one. Remember which felt true. Trevor nodded once, like a man tucking away a lesson he might need later. Outside, the hotel vestibule was a collage of cold air and warm engines. Drivers idled at the curb. Valets moved like chess pieces in black coats. Behind the glass, the ballroom glowed with its own expensive daylight, but the energy had shifted. The glow read like a stage after the cast has missed its cue. Noah slipped out a side door, still in his server vest, breath fogging in the cold. Ma'am, he said careful. I just wanted to say thanks. For not letting them pretend it was normal. Evelyn looked at him. What is your last name, Noah? Ramirez. You spoke at the right time, Mr. Ramirez. If anyone asks this week for a reference, you have it. Carter Global. My office. His eyes widened. He nodded, half bow, half disbelief. Yes, ma'am. Evelyn slid into the black sedan that had eased to the curb. The driver glanced at her in the mirror. Headquarters? Headquarters. Her phone vibrated as the car pulled into the avenue. A new call. The board chair. Rhea Collins did not waste greetings. I watched the clip, Rhea said. Are you exposed? To the truth, Evelyn said. The past tier is on video. Our notices are time-stamped. Harrington is signed. The room heard the values rationale before any headline twisted it. Backlash will try to paint it as theater, Rhea said. Then our receipts stay boring and precise, Evelyn said. Contracts. Access logs. Vendor letters. No adjectives. Only facts. Silence, then the sound of a chair turning on Rhea's end. You have full board cover. Take the clean break all the way. If the Whitlocks try to freeze the transfer, we will outpace them in daylight. Copy, Evelyn said. I will call after the Harrington session. She ended the call and opened a group chat. Rebecca. Operations Head Nia Park. Legal Counsel Owen Bell. PR Lead Sora Patel. Phase 3 Ops. Arrival in 12 minutes. Room warm. Screens live. Vendor notice sent. Press statement live. Social listening dashboard up. Prepare for injunction attempt. Pre-draft response set A and set B values line pinned. Rebecca replied within seconds. On it. Harrington team is inbound. Marcus Hale plus CFO Lena Ortiz. Their general counsel Amir Cole on video. Claire's live feed count jumped past 100,000. Comments flowed faster than the screen could manage. She had the sense to cut the noise and speak in complete sentences. For those just joining, Claire said. The event host family tore up the guest's pass and called security. The guest is Evelyn Carter, CEO of Carter Global. Her firm built the acquisition they were celebrating. The transfer has been redirected to their competitor, Harrington Group. I have seen the statement. It is official. In the ballroom, Callum Whitlock watched investors step away from him as if he were standing in a spill. He leaned toward his mother, Margot, and spoke into the air between them. We have to get legal. We have to get quiet, Margot said without moving her lips. Every lens is pointed at us. A PR woman in a navy sheath appeared at Margot's elbow with a tablet. We need to state you were unaware of the guest's identity and that any confusion is deeply regretted. We offer a private apology. Emphasis on private. We ask for calm. Margot did not blink. We tear up her pass and then we whisper an apology in a hallway. Do you hear yourself? The PR woman held the tablet a little higher like a shield. It might slow the burn. Callum's phone rang again. He looked down. 3 missed calls from the Whitlock board chair. He swiped it silent. His jaw twitched. Get the car, Margot said finally. We will control our own walls. Claire followed them with her lens until the elevator doors closed, the silver panels reflecting their faces as a single blurred shape. She lowered the phone and let out a breath she had not realized she had been holding. Send me a camera to Carter Global, she told her producer in a text. I want the other half of the night. The sedan glided under the glass awning of Carter Global. Headquarters rose like a clean blade, steel and glass and quiet confidence. Inside the lobby was museum calm. No chandeliers. No distraction. Just space that told a message plainly. We are here to work. Evelyn took the private elevator with Rebecca. The doors closed on the hush of the lobby and opened into motion. Nia had screens lit and sorted. Owen had stacks of folders and minimalist arrays that hid the speed underneath. Sora had 3 statement variants open and a listening graph that moved like a city map under rain. Marcus Hale of Harrington arrived at the same moment, coat folded over his arm, hair wind-tousled, eyes bright. He did not bother with a handshake until they were all inside the conference room. You walked a deal out of their hands in front of their friends, Marcus said, sitting. I will not insult you with congratulations. You planned it. It worked. We did not plan bigotry, Evelyn said. We planned an exit if they showed us who they were. Lena Ortiz slid into the seat beside Marcus. She had the unshowy focus of someone who loves spreadsheets because they refuse to lie. We have onboarding packages ready for all shared vendors, she said. If you press the button, we can email them inside the hour. Press it, Evelyn said. Make sure the values line is not a flourish. It is the headline. Sora's finger hovered. Say when. When. The emails went in a wave. The sound the team made was not a cheer. It was a collective exhale, professional and small. The room kept moving. Owen pushed a folder across the table. Injunction scenarios, he said. If Whitlock files in the morning, their only chance is a temporary freeze on transfer of consideration. They will argue bad faith. The past tier undermines that. Counter-filing's already drafted, Rebecca added. We will file at 8 with our own narrative. Not rhetoric. Conduct. Documentation. Time-stamps. Chain of custody. The judge will not have to guess. Marcus folded his hands. We also want to do the thing everyone is afraid to do. We set a public standard. If you humiliate people in public, you do not get our capital. Then say it, Evelyn said. Plain. Sora had the line ready. She did not have to edit it. Zero tolerance for public misconduct is not a slogan. It is a filter. If you fail it, you cannot hold our hand and you cannot hold our money. Nia brought a new screen forward. Operational lockouts, she said. As of 20 minutes ago, Whitlock logins to our shared analytics and vendor portal are disabled. If they try to access, they hit an audit page that explains why. There is no anger in the copy. Only policy. Keep it that way, Evelyn said. We are not punishing. We are protecting the network. Rebecca's phone buzzed. She scanned it, smiled once. Investor Coalition added $200 million to the withdrawal from Whitlock projects. We will route part to Harrington per the ladder we discussed. Marcus nodded. You are turning them into a case study. Into a mirror, Evelyn said. They chose what is in it. Claire watched the building from across the avenue. She could not see the work inside, but she could feel its rhythm in the body language of the people who entered and left, coats close to their sides, faces set, momentum visible in how they walked. Her producer messaged that the clip had crossed 1 million views. She typed back a single line. Keep the lower third clean. Facts only. Inside the conference room, the talk moved to friction points. Owen outlined the most likely judges for a morning motion. Nia listed vendors who might hesitate and what information they would need. Sora flagged phrases the press would try to load with heat and what words to use instead. Marcus and Lena offered Harrington resources like a hand under a heavy box. Evelyn listened, asked 2 questions, cut one tangent with a small shake of her head, then drew a circle on a legal pad and wrote 3 words inside it. After the cameras. Rebecca glanced at the pad and understood. Reputation projects, Rebecca said to the room. Scholarship fund through our partner foundation. Expedited grievance channel for network vendors. Training stipend for entry-level staff across shared companies. We announce next week. We do not hint that it is connected to tonight. We let that be a separate gravity. Marcus smiled at that. We have budget to match. Good, Evelyn said. Do it. Callum and Margot sat in the dark of the town car as the city slid by, lights stretching for blocks. Margot's phone lit her face cold. The board chair text was a question that looked like a verdict. How bad is it? She typed back. We will handle. Callum turned his screen so Margot could see. Clips. Headlines. The number 850 repeated like a drum. In one, Evelyn's sentence about building the deal played on loop. We say she lied, Callum said. We cannot say a thing that the documents will step on, Margot said. And the documents are not ours to shape tonight. We say she crashed, he tried again. We say she forced entry. She had a pass, Margot said. Which you helped tear up. Callum stared at the window. She made us look small. She made us look like what we were, Margot said. Small is not the problem. Small is curable. Ugly is not. The town car slowed at the Whitlock Tower. The lobby inside was all stone and water wall and hired quiet. The silence did not feel clean. It felt like a hand over a mouth. In the elevator, Margot closed her eyes for 2 floors then opened them. Get Denham, she said. We file at dawn. Pierce Denham, general counsel with a reputation for winning the kinds of fights that make other lawyers sigh, ran a hand through his hair as he read the facts at the long table. He looked up at Margot and Callum and did not offer flattery. You will lose this in the court of video, he said. Which is the only court that decides the next week. We can try a temporary restraining order on the fund transfer. It is thin. We will argue process. We will accuse her of a breach of the implied covenant. It will not sing. We need it anyway, Callum said. A freeze is a headline that buys time. Time for what? Denham asked. Callum did not answer. Margot answered for him. To remember who we are without a chandelier. Denham turned back to the pages. We can file by 6. We will need affidavits signed before 4. I want the security report. I want the guest list. I want every email from the last 10 days. Callum tightened his tie though it sat fine. And her pass. Denham glanced over the top of the pages. Destroyed on camera. Then get me the camera from a friendlier angle, Callum said. Denham did not smile. No angle will change the sound of paper ripping. Claire's inbox filled with subject lines that smelled like opportunity. Morning segments. Roundtable invites. She said no to all of them. She told her editor she wanted the piece in text before she ever put her face on a screen. She wanted sources. She wanted the names of the vendors who had received the notice and what that felt like on their end. At 2 in the morning, a barista recognized her from the stream and slid an extra espresso across the counter with the receipt. Claire took it with a thank you and opened a new doc. The lead wrote itself. A room told a woman to serve. She served notice. At Carter Global, the midnight meeting slid into 1. People rotated in and out to keep the table fresh. Evelyn never once raised her voice. When the room veered toward celebration, she steered it back. When the room darkened at the thought of the injunction, she lit it with schedule facts. When the room worried about what Margot would do next, she reminded them that the night had already shown everyone who had agency. At 3:15, Rebecca handed Evelyn a tablet with a list. People to call tomorrow. People to ignore. People to approach because their silence tonight had read like an invitation to talk. Add Noah Ramirez, Evelyn said. Rebecca added the name. She did not add a note. She did not need to. Sora stepped in with a fresh sheet. We have phrases trending that we did not seed, she said. People are using the word audit the way you did. They like it. It feels like a rule, not a burn. Good, Evelyn said. We want rules to be visible. Burns fade. The building breathed on its own schedule, the HVAC a low ocean. The city outside kept its other stories going. Somewhere a truck backed into a dock. Somewhere a couple fought and reconciled and set their alarm anyway. Somewhere a junior analyst at Whitlock drafted a resignation letter with the line I learned what weighs more, a pass or a person. At 4, Owen's phone lit with a new filing on the court portal. He read it once, then again and lifted his eyes to the room. They did it, he said. Application for a temporary restraining order. Hearing notice for 9. Rebecca was already moving. We file at 8, she said. We have the judge's clerk's name. We have the calendar habit. We will not be surprised in the hallway. Marcus stood. We will bring a witness, he said. Vendor sighed. Someone who can say what a values clause feels like in a contract when it is real. Bring 2, Evelyn said. One who has worked with us for years and one who met us tonight. The arc matters. Nia pulled a logistics view onto the main screen. Cars at 7:20. Security on a civil protocol. No theater outside. The only cameras we want are the ones Claire chooses. Evelyn looked at the clock and thought about sleep as a luxury she had never tried to afford on nights like this. She thought about the past tearing sound, and how some sounds lodge in people more than any speech. She thought about the moment Trevor stepped back and decided to own his uniform rather than the order given to it. Eat, she said to the room. It sounded like an order and a kindness in one. Morning will ask for steady hands. Rebecca laid a protein bar and a small coffee at Evelyn's elbow without comment. Evelyn nodded once and took both. At Whitlock Tower, Margot signed the last affidavit at 3:52. Denham gathered the stack like a man picking up tools before daylight. He spoke to them the way surgeons speak to families. Nothing false. Only proportion. You may get a few hours, he said. You will not get peace. Callum stared at the city through the glass. The buildings looked back like they had already put him in their memory the way one remembers a headline that did not age well. Margot closed her eyes again for the length of a long inhale. We will be what we build next, she said. Not what we tried to hold. Claire filed her draft at 4:20. Her editor messaged a single word. Publish. The piece went live at 4:23, and by 4:30 the comment section was a low roar under the article, which is to say it was doing exactly what good reporting does when it meets a moment that wanted a witness. At 4:40, a courier buzzed the after-hours desk at Carter Global and delivered a thick envelope addressed to counsel. The guard routed it upstairs. Owen slid it and read the motion with his finger on the line so his eyes would not skip. He passed the copy to Evelyn without changing his tone. They want to freeze the transfer for 72 hours, he said. They argue irreparable harm and ask the court to preserve the status quo. Evelyn read the last page, the signature line, the notice of time and place. She set the motion on the table, face down, like a tile in a game she already understood. Status quo, she said. Interesting phrase for the people who ripped a pass. We will answer with what the status quo is in our network, Owen said. Not marble. Policy. Evelyn stood. The room settled without being told. Was 5. The horizon had gone from black to blue. The city had that quiet that is not silence. It is weight shifting. We are done for now, she said. We meet in the lobby at 7:15. We walk in ready to teach. No heat. No sting. Only the map. She picked up her coat. Rebecca mirrored the move. The others rose. At the elevator, Evelyn paused and looked back at the room. Screens glowed. Coffee cups sat at careful angles. The legal pad with the circle and the 3 words still lay where she had left it. After the cameras. The doors slid shut on the room and opened onto the morning that wanted to test the work. Outside, the line of first buses rumbled by, and the sidewalk workers in orange vests laughed about something small and human and immediate. Evelyn stepped into the chill and let it write a clean edge on her focus. Across the avenue, in the reflection of the glass, she could see Claire on the opposite curb, phone in hand, not filming, just watching for a beat. They did not wave. They did not nod. Respect did not need to announce itself. The car door closed on the city's breath. The driver checked the mirror. Courthouse, he said. Courthouse, Evelyn answered, and the car pulled into a lane that was already clearing for what was coming next. The courthouse steps looked nothing like the marble ballroom of the Westmont Grand, but the weight pressing down on them felt heavier. Reporters had gathered before sunrise, lenses fogged from the chill, microphones gripped like weapons. The air outside was restless, not yet chaotic, but pulsing with the anticipation of a verdict that hadn't even been spoken. The black sedan rolled to the curb. Evelyn Carter stepped out first. She wore no jewels, no bright silk, just a tailored navy coat, hair tied back clean. Rebecca moved beside her with a tablet tucked under her arm. Owen Bell, legal counsel, held a slim folder like it was both shield and sword. Nia and Sora followed, deliberate in pace, not rushed, not hesitant. No one raised a hand to block the cameras. They didn't need to. The cameras were welcome. Evelyn had decided the night before that visibility was not her enemy, it was her evidence. On the courthouse steps, Claire Jennings was already live. Her voice held a measured rhythm. It's 7:45. Evelyn Carter has arrived for the emergency hearing. The Whitlocks filed overnight to freeze the transfer of the $850 million acquisition. Their argument, irreparable harm. Carter Global's response is expected to center on conduct, process, and values. Reporters called out questions, some sharp, some baited. Evelyn didn't stop to answer. She paused only once at the top step, turned slightly and looked out over the cameras. Facts will speak today, she said. That was it. 3 words that folded the rest of the noise into silence. Inside, the courtroom smelled of varnish and paper. The benches filled with observers, half press, half investors curious to witness history through oak and microphones instead of marble and chandeliers. The Whitlocks sat at one table, Margot in her pearl necklace, Callum beside her, their attorney Pierce Denham between them. Denham's reputation preceded him. Unflinching, methodical, known for pulling judges toward technicalities with the patience of gravity. He adjusted his glasses, tapped the motion in front of him and waited. At the opposite table, Evelyn sat flanked by Owen and Rebecca. Her hands were still, her posture straight. She wasn't performing. She was present, and presence had its own gravity. The judge entered. Conversations hushed into nothing. A gavel struck. The rhythm of the morning shifted. Case number 24 CV 1173, the clerk intoned. Whitlock Global versus Carter Global. Emergency motion for temporary restraining order. Denham rose first. His voice was measured, heavy with precedent. Your Honor, the petitioners seek a narrow order. To preserve the status quo for 72 hours while the merits of this dispute are properly reviewed. Without this pause, irreparable harm will occur. The transfer of capital cannot be undone. The reputational damage, the loss of partnerships, the disruption of commerce, these will ripple far beyond one evening's misunderstanding. He gestured toward Margot and Callum. The petitioners were blindsided by an unannounced action at a private gala. The respondent, Ms. Carter, orchestrated a public spectacle to humiliate my clients and dismantle a nearly complete acquisition. We ask simply that the court freeze the movement of funds long enough to determine if this was lawful, or merely punitive. Murmurs rippled. Claire typed fast in the press row. Punitive would be the word networks latched onto. Owen rose slowly. He didn't match Denham's thunder with thunder. He matched it with light. Your Honor, Owen said, the petitioners speak of status quo. But status quo is not chandeliers and champagne. It is contracts, clauses, obligations. And those obligations were broken. My client had full authority to withdraw capital under the values clause of the agreement, a clause signed by both parties. He lifted a page, held it just long enough for the judge to see the bold heading. Section 14. Good faith and conduct. Last night, Owen continued, my client's pass was destroyed on camera. She was told publicly to leave a gala she had been invited to as a principal. She was accused of fraud, of trespass, of misrepresentation. All without cause, all without inquiry. That breach of conduct voided the foundation of trust this agreement required. The clause exists for exactly this scenario. There is nothing to freeze, because the agreement was already shattered by the petitioner's own actions. Rebecca slid a tablet forward. The judge watched as video footage played silently on the monitor. Margot tearing the pass, Callum mocking with another, the security guard hesitating, Evelyn standing still, calm. Facts that needed no adjectives. Denham rose again. Your Honor, the respondent is weaponizing embarrassment. A contract dispute belongs at a negotiation table, not live-streamed through a reporter's lens. Evelyn spoke then, not loud, not heated, but precise. Your Honor, I didn't bring the cameras. They did. She gestured slightly toward the observers. All I did was stand still. The judge leaned back. Silence held the room like weight. Claire whispered to her mic, that may be the line of the day. Denham pressed again, citing precedent, cases where transfers were halted midstream. Owen countered with timelines, timestamps, showing that vendor notifications had already been sent before the Whitlock's filing, meaning the transfer wasn't just intention, it was execution. The judge finally raised a hand. I've heard enough for this morning. The room stilled. This is not theater, the judge said. This is contract law. And contract law bends toward clarity. The petitioners signed a clause they now wish did not exist. They breached it in front of witnesses. The respondent exercised the clause precisely as written. There is no irreparable harm to freeze, because harm was self-inflicted. The gavel struck once. Motion denied. The words detonated more quietly than at the gala, but no less powerfully. Gasp. Scribbles of pens. Phones vibrating as alerts spread. Margot's lips parted, then closed. Callum stared straight ahead, face locked. Denham simply adjusted his glasses, knowing this was the kind of loss even skill couldn't soften. At the other table, Evelyn didn't smile. She only nodded once to Owen, once to Rebecca. The case wasn't victory. It was confirmation. Reporters rushed as the court adjourned, but Evelyn didn't stop for them. She walked the steps steady, same as the night before. This time, Claire followed not as a documentarian only, but as a witness to aftermath. Outside, microphones swarmed. Evelyn gave them nothing beyond, the law spoke. We listened. Then she stepped into the sedan. The Whitlocks exited 10 minutes later, under heavier stares. Margot's pearls no longer glinted. They hung. Callum's phone rang again. He didn't answer. In the car, Evelyn finally let out a breath she hadn't allowed herself earlier. Rebecca turned her tablet so she could see. Harrington stock rising, Whitlocks dipping further, vendor confirmations flooding in. Next phase? Rebecca asked. Evelyn looked out the window at the city, sunlight cutting across the towers like new lines on an old map. Portfolio review, she said. Anything tied to us, we freeze. Anything useful, we buy. And then, she paused. We make sure the room learns something from this. The car moved through traffic. Behind them, the courthouse loomed, smaller with each block. Ahead, the skyline stretched, glass, steel, light, like a chessboard she already knew how to play. Claire's live feed crossed 2 million views before noon. The headline on her article was already being quoted across networks. A room told her to serve. She served notice. At Whitlock Tower, panic spilled across conference rooms like water over marble. Advisors snapped into calls. PR teams drafted apologies no one would read. Investors bled funds not slowly but in great gulps, redirecting toward Harrington. Margot sat at the head of a table too long for its purpose, pearls heavy against her collarbone, Callum staring at a screen where the numbers refused to turn upward. In Carter Global's glass-walled boardroom, the opposite was happening. Come. Not celebration but direction. Rebecca coordinated with Harrington executives. Owen prepared a clean press brief on the court ruling. Nia finalized the vendor lockout, ticking each name off like stitches in a seam. Sora shaped the message for industry journals. Evelyn sat with them, listening, cutting, choosing. Not once did she use the word victory. She called it a correction. And corrections, she reminded them, only mattered if they reshaped the future, not just punished the past. The day stretched, full of phone calls, contracts, statements, signatures. By dusk, Whitlock stock had dropped another 8 points. By nightfall, Harrington's rose by 6. Investors were already treating the two companies not as rivals but as opposite case studies. In her office, Evelyn stood by the window again, the city dark below, alive with lights. On her desk, a new envelope lay unopened, this time from the Whitlock board itself. Rebecca had placed it there quietly. Evelyn didn't open it. She didn't need to. She fed it straight into the shredder. The blades hummed, turning apology into confetti. Rebecca stepped in. Press wants a quote for tomorrow. No, Evelyn said. The statement's already been made. The skyline glowed with Carter Global's name. She watched it, steady like a reminder. She hadn't needed to prove she belonged in the room. She had built the room. And tomorrow she would decide who else was allowed to enter it. Morning came with a clean, bright edge. The kind of light that makes glass look honest. Evelyn arrived before 8. The team was already moving. Coffee cups sat in straight lines. Screens were open to dashboards and court dockets, not clips. The night's noise had burned off. What remained was work. Rebecca briefed fast. Vendors, 81% confirmed. Harrington onboarding at pace. Media, your 3-word quote is everywhere. Court, written order uploaded at 7:12. Denham filed a notice of appeal. It won't bite today. Good, Evelyn said. Then we use today. They spent the morning on projects that had nothing to do with applause. Rebecca finalized the scholarship fund with the partner foundation. Nia pushed a live grievance channel across the vendor network, a simple form with a promise of a human reply within 2 business days. Sora drafted a quiet page for the website, not a press release, just a policy that would live there long after the headlines moved on. Zero tolerance was not a banner. It was a filter they could measure. By noon, a list of names sat on Evelyn's desk. Claire Jennings, Trevor Ward, Noah Ramirez, a junior analyst at Whitlock who had submitted a resignation at dawn with a note about learning which weighs more, a pass or a person. Evelyn wrote 2 words beside each, contact today. Rebecca's pen moved without needing more. At Whitlock Tower, glass reflected a different day. Margot sat in a room designed to make people speak softly and wish it would be over. The board chair's voice came through the speaker with that professional calm that sounds like a lid. He didn't linger on the court loss. He moved to the part that would matter by week's end. Capital outflows. Counterparties invoking values clauses. The quiet shame of unanswered calls. We have to stop bleeding, he said. We need a statement that is not a statement. A change. Something tangible. Margot didn't ask what. She knew the answer when she saw Callum's face harden at the suggestion. You resigned, the board chair meant without saying it. Not a scapegoat, Margot said. A reset. Both, the chair said. And quickly. Callum stared at the table, then at the view, then at his mother. This is not fair. It is accurate, Margot said, and for the first time since the gala her voice had no steel in it, only age. Accuracy is not gentle. They voted. The words they chose were the kind lawyers prefer. Transitional. Interim. Strategic reorientation. But the plain meaning carried. Callum stepped down from his role. A caretaker would hold the keys while the board hunted for a name the markets would accept. Margot announced a third-party audit and a training program. The press release said the firm would seek to listen. It did not ask for forgiveness. The internet did not offer any. At Carter Global, the afternoon turned to calls. Rebecca looped Claire for a short, off-camera meeting in the lobby cafe. Claire arrived early, recorder in her bag, not on. She didn't lead with questions. She thanked Evelyn for not making it about herself, which is not a sentence reporters often get to say. Off the record, Claire said, "Why didn't you take a victory lap?" "Because I don't win anything if the room learns nothing," Evelyn said. "You know this. You wrote it." Claire nodded. "You're building a standard." "A door?" Evelyn said. "Standards are walls if you write them to exclude. A door has rules and hinges. You can learn how to open it." Noah came in at 3, wearing his best shirt and the expression of someone bracing for a trick. HR had called him that morning. He thought it was a prank until the email arrived from a real domain. Rebecca met him at the security desk and walked him upstairs as if he had an appointment he'd had for years. "Mr. Ramirez," Evelyn said, standing. "Thank you for what you said in the ballroom. It shouldn't have been necessary. It mattered anyway." He swallowed. I just said the truth." "That is rarer in a room filled with money than it should be," Evelyn said. "I'd like to sponsor your management certification. Paid time. Tuition covered. If you want experience while you study, we'll place you with operations for 6 months. If you'd rather stay where you are and take the course, we will fund that and then help you move when you're ready. Your choice." He blinked at the desk like the wood might explain itself. "Why me?" "Because we should train the people who lift rooms, not only the people whose names are already on them," Evelyn said. "Say yes if you want it. No pressure." "Yes," he said a little too quickly, then steadier. "Yes. Thank you." When he left, Rebecca smiled without looking up from her screen. "You like making administrators cry good tears, don't you?" "Only on Wednesdays," Evelyn said. Trevor arrived next, suit modest, posture careful. He apologized again, which made Evelyn stop him with a hand in the air. "Don't apologize for undoing a mistake in real time," she said. "We're building a security protocol training. We'd like you to help write it. Scenario-based. Practical. You get paid consulting rate and credit." Trevor stood a little taller. "I can do that." "Good," Evelyn said. "Write the first module. We'll test it in 3 buildings before we ship it to the network." In the evening, a request came in that no one had expected to see so soon. A private meeting between Margot and Evelyn. No cameras. No aides. 15 minutes, neutral ground. The wording was simple. No preconditions. No spin. Owen read it twice, then a third time, as if a clause might appear if he stared long enough. "You don't owe them the room," he said. "I know," Evelyn said. "That's why I can decide to step into it." They chose a small conference room in a civic building 3 blocks from the courthouse. No brand on the glass. No chandelier to argue with. Margot arrived alone, pearls gone. The lines at her mouth were new. She looked like someone who hadn't slept, which made her look like everyone else in the city who had been paying attention. They sat. A car passed outside, tires whispering on the wet street. The silence wasn't hostile. It wasn't warm either. It was work. "I won't try to excuse the thing you saw," Margot said. "There is video. There is no version that flatters me." "That is true," Evelyn said. "You don't need me to admit harm," Margot said. "The court did that. The market did that. My board did that this morning. I asked to meet to tell you something the press won't print. My father taught me the room was ours. He taught me to hold it like property. I held it too tightly. I taught my son to hold it without showing him what it's for. That is on me." "Rooms are for work," Evelyn said. "Not performance. The chandelier confused you." The ghost of a smile touched Margot's mouth, a reflex with no joy in it. "We are dismantling that chandelier as we speak," she said. "I don't expect you to believe we can change because I say we will. I want you to tell me what a door looks like." "A door is boring," Evelyn said. "It is policy. It is training. It is a grievance line that a junior person can use without betting their rent. It is audit, not spectacle. It is leadership that tells the truth in the room before the room has to be told by the internet. It is time." "Time we don't have," Margot said. "You have it if you stop measuring it by stock ticks," Evelyn said. "Measure by what you'll accept in the room." Margot looked down at her hands. They were not steady. "Help me write it," she said. "Not for optics. For keeps. We will pay the consultants. We will not put your logo anywhere it doesn't belong. If you never say our name again, I will understand." "You're asking me to help you rebuild a house you set on fire," Evelyn said. "I'm asking you to help me make sure we never light a match near one again," Margot said. "If you refuse, I will still try. If you accept, I will be grateful without asking you to be seen near me." Evelyn didn't answer for a long moment. Not for effect. Because choice carries weight when the person making it actually means yes or no. Then she nodded once. "You will hire an independent firm," she said. "You will publish the findings. Not a summary. The report. You will post your complaints data quarterly. You will tie executive compensation to conduct metrics. You will fund a training program that you don't control. You will put 2 seats on your board aside for people who do not come from your circles. You will implement a pass policy that cannot be torn up at a socialite's whim. If you agree to those 5 things in writing by month's end, I'll lend you a blueprint. Not my face. Not my name. The work." Margot exhaled like someone stepping onto ground after days at sea. "Yes." "Then do it," Evelyn said. She stood. "And don't thank me in public. Build it in quiet. Let the camera find it later when there's nothing dramatic left to film." Margot stood too. "You just told me how to close the story on my worst week." "I didn't," Evelyn said. "I told you how to open a better one." They left without shaking hands. Some moments don't need the ceremony. The week became a month. The month became a quarter. The headlines moved on to other fires. The work did not. The grievance line at Carter Global filled, then slowed, then began to show more questions than complaints, which is a different kind of health. Trevor's training modules rolled through lobbies and venues, turning guards into decision makers, not doorstops. Noah finished his first term and took an operations role. He stopped apologizing for speaking plainly. He started asking better questions. Claire's piece became assigned reading in a few MBA seminars, not because it crowned a hero, but because it diagrammed a decision. She won an award she did not mention in her story because she was busy writing the follow-up. A quiet article about the shape of a policy and the way a vendor in a small town used the grievance form at 11 p.m. and got a reply before lunch. Harrington grew not by swallowing everything in sight, but by becoming a place where small companies felt like they wouldn't be erased. Marcus stopped getting congratulatory texts. He started getting questions about templates. He sent back PDFs unbranded. Whitlock published the audit. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't meant to be. Margot held a short press conference and did the one unexpected thing left to do. She read a paragraph from the worst section out loud and said, "We did this. We are not special. We are common in ways that should shame us." She answered 3 questions, then walked off without the pearls. The stock didn't jump. That wasn't the point. Evelyn declined the panels. She took meetings that had deliverables at the end. She went to 2 graduations for the scholarship fund and shook hands with families who used different words to describe the same feeling. Being seen before being measured. On a wet Thursday, months after the gala, she found herself walking past the Westmont Grand on her way to a different event in a smaller room. A crew was on ladders inside the ballroom, lowering the chandelier in pieces. The crystals came down like rain, carefully, each one wrapped in paper and set in crates. The ceiling looked higher without it. The room looked larger. It read like work. Rebecca joined her on the sidewalk, umbrella tilted just enough to keep their coats dry. "They're replacing it," she said. "With what?" "Lights you can dim," Rebecca said. "No centerpiece. No single point of attention." Evelyn watched a crystal pass from hand to hand through the glass. "Good." They kept walking. 2 blocks later they stepped into a community auditorium where the carpet had seen better days and the folding chairs clicked open with stubborn little sounds. Nia had set up laptops on a long table. Sora had printed name tags. Owen had brought a box of pens that didn't smear. The sign by the door said Vendor Clinic in a font that didn't try to impress anyone. People came in carrying paperwork and questions, and the same look people get when they aren't sure if they're about to be sold something. They sat. They listened. They asked. They told stories about what doors look like from the outside. Evelyn took the 4th chair at the table and listened. She stamped forms. She explained a clause 3 different ways until a face relaxed. She called a number herself when someone said they had sent an email last month and never heard back. She wrote the apology in ink and attached her card to it. No cameras. No clip. Just a room. Near the end of the night, a woman with a hairnet tucked under a knit cap sat down and slid a folded paper across. I clean offices, she said, flat, no preamble. Sometimes I hear things I shouldn't. Sometimes they talk like I don't exist. If I report that, do I lose my contract? Evelyn didn't rush the answer. Not here, she said. And if someone tries to make that happen, they will meet a policy that is louder than them. The woman nodded once. I want the policy to be bored, she said. Evelyn smiled. Me too. When the chairs folded back up and the laptops went into bags and the carpet remembered all the feet it had held, Evelyn stepped outside. The rain had thinned to a fine mist that made the city glow. Across the street, a bus hissed at the curb. A kid in a varsity jacket ran for it, laughing, and made the step with room to spare. The doors closed. The bus moved on. Rebecca touched Evelyn's sleeve. There's one more envelope on your desk, she said. From a foundation you like. They want to match the scholarship fund. Open it, Evelyn said. I already did, Rebecca said. I said yes. They walked toward the car, steps unhurried. Claire stood under an awning half a block away, not filming, just watching the sidewalk the way she had that morning at the courthouse. She lifted a hand once, small, an acknowledgement across rain. Evelyn lifted hers back. That was enough. In the car, the driver asked, Headquarters. Home, Evelyn said. The word landed like a decision and a rest. The city slid by, lights in rows, windows like open eyes. She thought of the gala and the courthouse and the rooms in between. She thought of the past tearing sound and the quiet sound of policy clicking into place. She thought of doors and hinges and hands that had learned how to open them without asking permission first. Her phone buzzed. A message from Noah. First day in ops finished. Learned more in 8 hours than in 8 months on the floor. Thank you. She typed back. Do the work. Teach the next person. Another buzz. A photo from Trevor. A classroom, a whiteboard with the words decision rights at the top, a circle around the sentence ask why before who. He had written it in thick marker. He had underlined it once. She put the phone face down and watched the city beyond the glass. It didn't need her words. It needed her work. It would get it tomorrow and the day after and the day after that, when no one was talking about a chandelier and everyone had learned to see the room without one. At a red light, she remembered what she had told Margot in that small conference room. The part that hadn't fit in any statement. The part that mattered more than any clause. Rooms aren't prizes. They're tools. The light turned green. The car moved forward. Behind her, somewhere in the city, a ballroom hung from a different ceiling, a courthouse rested under a night guard's quiet steps, a vendor slept with an inbox that would answer in the morning, a reporter wrote a story about policy and made it readable, a foundation cut a check without a ceremony, a company without pearls decided to do something difficult and unglamorous for a long time. And Evelyn Carter closed her eyes for a moment, not to escape the day but to mark it. The day the room changed shape. The day the door stayed open because it had hinges, not because someone held it. When she opened her eyes, the car was already turning onto her street. The rain sounded like pencil on paper. Work ahead, lines clean. She felt the kind of tired that signals work done right. Not victory. Correction. Continuity. Home waited with its own quiet light. She stepped out, keyed the lock, and the door opened the way good doors do. Simple. Without ceremony. Built to be used,